Hi folks, thanks for tuning in and welcome back again. As you can see, it's a beautiful winter day. We finally got some snow. Hopefully we're going to get a nice snowpack. The temperature finally went down and it's a good thing. I was still pulling ticks off the dog, but the temperature is much colder now. Hopefully we're going to get a sustained winter and we're able to somebody's shooting. But anyway, we're just finishing up a hunting trip up in the mountains. I didn't shoot anything, by the way, but my son ended up getting one. So we're going to have some fresh meat in the freezer. But what I wanted to do is share another sporting rifle, lay it out back on a table or something, and we'll talk about the specs, the details. I'll do a write-up as well. So stand by. I have another review coming your way. Okay, I have the rifle laid out. I actually had to bring it inside and I'm going to do it in the garage. It's just too windy outside and it's too much noise. It's not the greatest lighting in here, but we'll get through it. And what you're looking at there is a Browning lever action rifle. This is also known as the BLR, and there's several different variations, including some in plain wood with laminated stocks, and they even have a model that will break down. Very similar to the Ruger 1022, where you can take it apart into two pieces and it makes it a little more compact and packable. Now this rifle comes in a variety of different calibers, including some pretty hard-hitting rounds. This particular model, the one that you're looking at here, is the White Gold Medallion edition, and it's chambered in a popular .308 caliber. I think that's a pretty good deer round, and it's relatively easy to find as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an overview of the rifle. I'm going to cover some specs, some of the features, and then we'll get into some more detailed stuff. I'm also going to do a write-up online and I'll share some additional information. So let me spin around, get in front of the camera, and we'll get started. Okay, let's talk about this beauty, because it is a beautiful sporting rifle and I wanted to share it with you all. Now, Browning advertises this rifle as weighing 6 pounds 8 ounces out of the box, and that translates over to about 2.9 kilograms. The actual weight of this rifle, as you see it outfitted, and that's with the scope, the rings, the sling, and a fully loaded magazine, is closer to 8 pounds 5 ounces, or approximately 3.8 kilograms or so. So I think that's the weight that most of you are going to be interested in. That's what the rifle weighs when I'm carrying it, 8 pounds 5 ounces, and that's more realistic. Now, the overall length from the muzzle down to the recoil pad is 40 inches, or about 101 centimeters. The barrel is 20 inches long, or 50 centimeters. And it has a 1 in 12 twist in the barrel. Now, pardon the muzzle, but I want to show you some of these features. And if you look right there, it has a recessed crown on the muzzle, and that's to protect the rifling. So that's a very nice feature. Now, if I spin it around, let me see if I can show you the front sight. And there we go. And as you can see, it has a brass bead on the front, if someone wanted to use this without a scope. And the rear sight is a little more difficult to see. And there you go. And that's adjustable. So it has an adjustable rear sight. Now, the wood that you're looking at here, it's a very beautiful wood, has a nice grain pattern. This is a black walnut, and the grade on it is a 4.5. And if you look up here closely, you'll see that it has a very nice rosewood cap on the forearm to set it off. Nice little feature with this white line going through here, nice separation line. And it has checkering on the forearm, down on the pistol grip. And by the way, this is a pistol grip design right here, it curves downward. This is more comfortable to me as opposed to a straight stock. Right there. Very nice feature. It has a polymer recoil pad, and there's nothing fancy about that. The receiver on here is an aluminum alloy, nickel plated, or nickel finish I should say, not nickel plated. And there you go, it has engravings on both sides. Very nicely done. Gold trigger. And it has the Browning logo underneath here on the trigger guard. There is a shot of the magwell. Magazine release is right here. Recessed in here, in this area. And as you can see, it has a very glossy finish. Some folks like this finish, some don't. I think the rain and the elements just kind of roll off here. It's pretty much impervious to the weather. Stainless steel barrel, of course. So this rifle is going to have lower maintenance. And as far as the trigger does pull away with the lever. There you go, there's a shot of that. And this has a very nice racket pinion system on here for smooth cycling. And it also has, let me bring it a little closer, it also has a multi-lug rotating bolt on here, which is something you don't see in a lot of lever action rifles. But there's the bolt. And it has lugs on there to seat that casing very securely into the chamber. So that's another very, very nice feature. As far as the hammer, it has a two-stage hammer. 1 and 2. So once again, there it is on standby. It will not fire. And all the way back, and at this point it is ready to fire. It comes with one magazine. That's what it looks like. It'll hold 4 rounds. Potentially you could have one in the chamber, giving you 5-round capacity. Seats in here very nicely, no issues. There you go. And here's the release. Pops right out, no problem. I purchased an extra one. I think it's necessary. I like to have an extra magazine. It's much easier to load this gun if you have a fresh magazine to insert into the well and you're right back in the game. Of course, you could put one into the chamber for a quick follow-up shot, but I think this is a better option, at least for me it is. Now, as far as the sling, I just put a Browning sling on here to maintain the theme. Could go with a leather one if I wanted to, but I just decided to go with one of these. It's good enough. The mounts are made by Talley for Browning. These are intermediate. And give you a shot there, medium height. Enough clearance. And the issue is that if they're too low, you lose room in here, and that could be a real pain getting to the hammer, and I'll talk about what I did to address that issue. And if they go too high, then of course the con is your face is off the cheek plate. So you need to find a sweet spot when mounting your scope depending on the optics. This is a 42mm lens, and I went with the medium height or the intermediate height, and it hit the sweet spot. Now as far as the scope, Swarovski scope on here, Z3, 3 to 10 power, and it has a 42 millimeter objective. So I went with a little bit smaller scope on this rifle. I wanted to keep the weight down. But it's a very, very nice scope. Super, super clear. No issues there with the quality. Now, as far as the hammer, let me talk a little bit about that. Because you can see there's a little added feature. And what you're looking at there is a hammer spur extension. This is optional. I put this on the hammer to make it a little bit easier in the field when pulling the hammer back, especially if I have winter gloves on. The spur extension actually comes out here, so it gives me something to grab to pull the hammer back. So that's another nice little feature. It's an optional feature, but I think this is necessary for me. It gives me a little more advantage, and it's easier to get to the hammer. Now as far as the trigger, this trigger is not going to be as nice as the X-Bolt rifle. It does have a little bit of play. There is some take up here. It's not as crisp as the X-Bolt rifle, so that's a little bit of a con, I think, and it takes some getting used to, that little bit of a take up before you get the bang, as opposed to the X-Bolt rifle that has a firm trigger and it breaks very, very crisp. So if you're trigger sensitive, that's something to keep in mind with these rifles. There is a little bit of play in there with respect to the trigger before there's an actual discharge. And that's about it for the rifle. I think I've covered most of the features and the specs on it. I'll do a write-up, like I said, and I'll post some information online. But overall, this is a beautiful, beautiful rifle. Oh, one other con. Let me mention this as well. This recoil pad is not as nice as the one on the X-Bolt. I will say that. This is just average. It's just a polymer, and the one on the X-Bolt rifle is a little bit nicer. And another thing I'll mention is that when you seat the magazine in, let me see if I can show you that. There you go. See how it sticks out a little bit? It's not flush. Sticks out just a little bit right there. So I'll point that out. That might be an issue to some folks. I can tell you that on the X-Bolt, it sits perfectly flush on there. It doesn't stick out. And I would say that as an improvement, I think Browning should have made these magazines the same color as the receiver, so they tie in perfectly and match. So I think that's a little bit of a miss on them, especially for a rifle of this caliber, something this beautiful. They could have also made this aluminum with a nickel finish on there, and then it would have looked completely custom sitting in there, and it would have been a perfect match. So that's another little critique. I'll mention that as well. But overall, this is a beautiful compact rifle. It's certainly capable of taking many large animals in North America, no doubt about that, all the way up to an elk. With the right caliber, the proper round and shot placement, no issues there. It's accurate, it functions well, flawlessly. I've never had an issue with it. And it's the kind of rifle that's going to retain a lot of value over the years. So I wanted to share this beauty with you. One more shot at it. There you go. And thanks for tuning in, and see you all next time.